Welcome, Rhema Cathedral, Rhema Nation, family, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you all are on tonight. And I am elated that our apostle, Bishop Victor L. Powell, decided to share this subject with you all tonight. It's been an amazing few Tuesdays. We had Elder Pearl talking about enduring and lasting long, and then Miss Pam Green Jackson came and blessed our socks off about living healthy. And now tonight, Apostle has commissioned that I talk about something that's a little bit, most people look at this and they cringe when they think about this subject. But one day, we're all going somewhere. We're all going to leave this earth and go somewhere. And hopefully it's with the Lord Jesus. And we want to be prepared. So would you all give it up for our bishop, our apostle, Victor L. Powell? Put it in the chat. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Apostle. Thank you so much for allowing us to broaden our scope and bring life-changing presentations to the people of God so that we can prepare for our future, so that we can prepare and be in good health and allow our souls to prosper, so that we can prepare for our future, for our legacy. So listen up. I want to tell you a story. Can I take you down a journey with me so that I can tell you how I ended up here with this passion for this subject, okay? And my subject is, are you ready? My subject is how you leave here matters. How you leave here matters. Write your final chapter, okay? Write your final chapter. Now, don't hop off, because, you know, I know sometimes when we start talking about life and death, when it comes to the death part, we kind of start getting a little nervous. One person that I was assisting said, oh my gosh, I feel like I might be jinxing myself. And I said, jinxing yourself? Because you're preparing for your legacy, because you're preparing to ensure that when something happens to you, not if, when something happens to you, that your family won't have to worry about certain things. You're not jinxing yourself, because we're all going one day, and we shouldn't fear that, especially as believers in the body of Christ, okay? So I want you to take this journey with me. Are you ready? So I'm in Chicago. I get a phone call from my mother. I had just left being with my dad at their home maybe about 2.5 hours ago. I get a phone call, and my mother says, baby, we're getting ready to rush your daddy to the hospital. Of course, being the daddy's girl that I am, anxiety rushed. I hurried up, got in my car, got to St. Francis Hospital, and there my daddy was lying in this bed. My screams to my daddy was, Daddy, don't go. Daddy, no. I need you, Daddy, please. While my daddy laid there in a coma, having a stroke, no matter how loud I cried, no matter how loud I screamed, the doctors called us into a room. My family members were in there. My mom and my favorite sister, when the doctor started talking, the doctor said, hey, we're going to have to make a decision, so if you all can tell me if Mr. Wysinger has a living will. What is his wishes? My mom and my favorite sister, who is my oldest sister, replied, he never wanted to be on a ventilator. He never wanted to be on a breathing machine. That was their reply to the doctor. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in this room, and the other family members' eyes pointed toward me, because at that point, they're wondering, what is his baby girl about to say or do? Sure enough, all of my life, most of my life, I remember when maybe I was about 8 or 9 years old, my daddy would always say, baby, one day daddy's gonna leave. One day daddy has to die. One day I'm not gonna be here with you anymore. And my response was always, Daddy, you can never leave me. Daddy, you can never leave me. So when the doctor asked my mom and the family, did he have a living will? Their response was no, but he never wanted to be on the breathing machine. Now, yes, my daddy told me that one day he won't be here anymore, but that was it. He never said to me that he didn't want to be on a breathing machine. So because he didn't say it to me, it didn't matter. Hey, hold up. He didn't tell me he didn't want to be on the breathing machine, I said. As my loud screams and tears overwhelmed that hospital room, my mom's response, because I was only saved for like 2 years at this time, so I wasn't the woman of God who I matured to be. I wasn't who I am standing here now. Some of my words were choice. Some of my responses were felt with passion of, if you pull that plug on that breathing machine of my daddy. And my mom's words to that doctor was, let him stay on the ventilator, because if you don't, I might have to kill this girl. My response, if you take my daddy off of that ventilator, yes, you will have to kill me. So now, I want you to continue the journey with me. As months went on, I would go back and forth to Chicago, because at this point, I was living in Albany, Georgia, which is almost 1,000 miles from Chicago. I was going back and forth to Chicago every month, spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to check on my dad. But guess who was there because of what I demanded? My mother was there every day going to that nursing home to check on my dad. My dad didn't have the opportunity to write his final chapters. I chose those final chapters for him. I chose it. I chose the final chapter for my dad by demanding that he not be pulled off that ventilator for my own selfish reasons. My daddy was my little God. He's the reason why I serve God and love God the way that I do. So I couldn't imagine spending life without my dad. In a million years, could I imagine, spending life without my daddy. So 2.5 years go by. I'm back and forth to Chicago, back and forth traveling to see my dad lay in the bed with a feeding tube. My selfishness, all I wanted was to know that he was still here. When I look back now, I realize just how selfish my love was for someone who wasn't able to speak for themselves in that moment. That brings me to this. My last visit to my dad was in October of that year that he passed away. I remember coming back to Albany, Georgia, and I said to Bishop, I think at that time he was Pastor Powell. I said, sir, when I go and see my daddy in that nursing home, I feel so bad because I feel like he's helpless. I don't know what they may be doing to him. You know, all of the things that we think about that happens in nursing homes. I said, I just don't like that. And Bishop responded and he said, well, do you remember what you said that Prophet Hart said to you about your dad still being alive? Because 2 months after my dad had that stroke and I was in a worship experience, and Prophet Hargo said to me, the Lord was going to take your dad initially when he had the stroke, but for your sake, because you weren't strong enough, he allowed him to stay a little while longer. So at that time, Pastor Powell said to me, the Lord is going to keep your dad here because remember, it was for your sake. So it's now time for you to go back and tell your dad you release him. You release him to be with Jesus. And you're going to have to be strong enough to know and to trust that God will always be your number one father. I went back to Chicago, went to the nursing home. And as hard as it was, I released my dad back to the Lord. I gave him permission to not want to hold on any longer just for my sake. And I thanked God in that same breath that he allowed, even in my own selfishness, he allowed my dad to stay there, to stay here on earth with me. 2 weeks after I came back to Albany, Georgia, I remember we had prayer here, and I got a phone call saying that my dad had transitioned. Now, this is after 2.5 years. This is after Bishop told me, you have to go and you have to release your dad. You have to tell him that you're okay with him leaving. By the time I got back, my dad had transitioned maybe about 1 or 2 weeks later. Sombering. That experience continued. It opened up a new chapter for me. And that chapter is my passion now. The passion to want to know how to lead. The passion to want to write my final chapter and to help other people write their final chapter so that no one will ever be in control of what your wishes, your desire is if you ever become incapacitated and even after death. All right. So, Rhema Nation, family and friends, allow me to share some things with you to help you prepare to write your final chapter. It's the Christmas season. It's actually the best gift that you could give to yourself. Are you ready? Type I'm ready in the chat. Type I'm ready in the chat. I can't see you because I want to look at my notes, but the information that I am going to give to you, and I hope that you're being blessed right now by what I've shared and what I'm about to share. Okay, let me give you the disclaimer. I am not an estate planning attorney. I'm not an estate planning attorney. And the information provided is for informational purposes only, okay? I'm going to share with you some of the things that I learned by way of experience with my dad. And then as life continued on, and I was able to help other people, quite a few people, with estate planning. It became my passion because I thought about my selfish love, but that selfish love unfolded this passion for me. So here we are all of these years later, and I'm saying, God, I need to ensure that others have things in place so that way no one will be able to make those decisions for them. My dad, I'm sure, did not want to be on that ventilator for 2.5 years. My selfish love kept him there. That's why I want to encourage you to write your final chapter, okay? The first thing that I want to talk about is prepare financially. Prepare financially, okay? How can you prepare financially? There's a few ways, actually. You know, most of us just think about the first thing, which is what? What do you think the first thing is when I say, let's prepare financially for when we pass away? Life insurance, right? Life insurance, yes. That's typically the first thing that comes to mind. And yes, I want to encourage you to get with a reputable life insurance agent who can assist you with the proper life insurance that you need for yourself, okay? Now, when doing that, everybody, listen up, because there are some people who like to write policies and they won't tell you some of the fine prints, or you'll get a policy and that policy would, let's say, be about let's just say a $5,000 policy, right? But yet they have you paying $500 a month into the policy. When you do that math, if you save your own $500 in a high yield savings account, you can come up with your own $5,000 in a shorter amount of time than you paying that $500 every month, and you end up paying way more for the insurance policy than what your family will receive in return. Are y'all catching my drift here? So be very, very careful about when you're doing life insurance policies, okay? Some of the other things that we want to talk about as it relates to preparing financially. So there are some times when perhaps someone may have high health risk and they're not able to necessarily afford health insurance. I want you all to know that just because someone dies without a life insurance policy doesn't necessarily mean that they were just negligent. That's not what that always means. It doesn't mean that. It could be because they were high risk. They had a health issue. For example, my dad did not have life insurance when he passed away, okay? I found out why, because I definitely asked my mom, well, why you ain't had no life insurance on my daddy, right? I was a mess, y'all, because I was such a daddy's girl, so everything was a why. Why you, why you, why you? And my mom's response was, your dad had a heart problem, and it was too expensive to insure him, okay? So just because someone does not necessarily have life insurance doesn't mean that they were just simply being negligent. So I want us to throw away that myth, okay? Now, there are other ways that we can prepare financially if we cannot afford a life insurance policy, okay? Now, when you get your life, let me go back. When you have a life insurance policy, I want you to make sure that you have a beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary on your life insurance policy. You never know if that person who you intended for the life insurance to go to is going to still be alive when you're deceased. So you always want to have a contingent beneficiary, okay? So the other way to prepare financially is to explore high-yield savings accounts. Those are out there. They pop up all the time online, and they give you back more interest than a regular bank's saving account. So you deposit that money in that account every week, every month, whenever you get paid, and it's don't touch money. So you put it in that account, you don't touch it, and you allow it to yield interest, and then that way you can say, hey, this is definitely only for when I pass away. Not if, but when I pass away for some of my final expenses. You can also have investments, okay? You can have investments, so you can make investments to prepare financially. Or, this is another thing that, although my dad did not have life insurance, he had what was called a pre-need policy, okay? That's new to a lot of people, but it has been around for decades. A pre-need policy. Look into a pre-need policy, because a pre-need policy is basically you preparing for your burial or your cremation, okay? That's what the pre-need policy is for. It's you go to the funeral home, you tell them what casket you want, you pick out your casket, you say how many limos you want, you say how many obituaries you want. You give them all of that. You're pre-planning your funeral. And that's called a pre-need policy, okay? So there's no reason why we cannot prepare financially for our departure from the earth. Number two, are you ready? I hope you're still on. Getting these nuggets. Number two, plan legally. Plan legally, okay? I recommend that you hire an estate attorney and create a trust. Let me show you. Let me show you real quick, okay? This is a trust, okay? It's a really big binder. It has a lot of confidential information in it, but this is a trust. This right here, when something happens to me, when, not if, my people gonna pick this up right here and they gonna handle business. I got my business in order. I've already written my final chapter, okay? So this is a trust. This is my first recommendation, but you would have to hire an attorney, an estate planning attorney, in order to do that, to do a trust, okay? There's so many different benefits that go into a trust, so many. Things that I had not even thought about, such as one that I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes. The other thing is consider advanced healthcare directives. Consider advanced healthcare directives. What is that, you say? Okay. So it's similar to what I did with my daddy. That's basically what it is. It's to ensure that doesn't happen to you. Okay? So advanced healthcare directives are in writing. It's a living will, and it's saying, this is what I want. This is what I desire. If I were to stop breathing, it's going to say whether or not I want to be resuscitated. It's going to say whether or not I want to be put on a ventilator, how many days. I mean, you can be very detailed with it. It doesn't have to necessarily be just A, B, C, or D. It can actually, you can tell them, I only want to be on a ventilator for 2 weeks. If there's no progression, then my family can remove me from the ventilator, okay? You can be very strategic. You can be very detailed with how you want your living will, your directives to be placed on that advanced healthcare directives, okay? Now, you can also assign a durable power of attorney for healthcare. Let's just say, for example, you're one of those nonchalant people that's like, I don't care one way or another. If I go, I go. If I go to this hospital, whatever happens, whatever, I'm just going to let my husband decide. I'm just going to let my wife decide. I'm just going to let my daughter decide. Whatever it is, you can you can assign a durable power of attorney for health care, and that person can make the decision for you, okay? So that's the other, so there's two types of advanced directives. It's the living will, whereas you say this is what I want, and it's the durable power of attorney where you assign a person that will make those decisions for you, okay? The next thing, while we are planning legally, I want you to write out your funeral, burial, cremation, whatever wishes, okay? I need you to do that for me, because y'all know Uncle Bobby told me that he wanted Susan to sing at the funeral. He ain't tell me that. He did not tell me that. Let's put all of it in writing. Who do you want to sing at your funeral? I know this might sound like, oh, that's too much, I don't care. If you don't care, guess what? You can write that out on that sheet. It doesn't matter. N.A. Who cares? Whatever terminology you want to use for that part. But plan out how you want your homegoing service to be. That way, the person who you're leaving as your executor won't have to plan it for you, okay? If you have a pastor who you know you love and you've been at a church for all of these years and you want your pastor to preach your eulogy, I've seen it too many times. You might need to put that in writing. Put it in writing. Write your final chapter. Write your final chapter, okay? If you want to be cremated, I was talking about this the other day at the dinner table, and the lady across from me was just cringing every time I said, yeah, I'm going to be cremated. I'm going to be cremated. And she's like, I said, so why are you cringing? Oh my God, I cannot believe you just said that. I did. I said that, and guess what? I have it in writing because I am writing my final chapter. So if you wish to be cremated, if you wish to have a graveside service, I know somebody who I love dearly. They're a covenant member at this church. They don't want to come up in the church. They want a graveside funeral. So they have it in writing as well. So that's what I'm saying. I need everybody to just pay attention here because it gets real sticky when you're no longer here and your family has to make those decisions for you. Okay? It gets really, really sticky. All right. We're moving along because we don't want to leave any assumptions to our family members of what we wanted. And Bobby and Suzanne will be fighting, and you somewhere resting in Jesus, and you done left them here fighting because you didn't give them directions, okay? So that's what I am here to help you with today. I have a serious passion about this. The other thing, while we are preparing and planning legally, designate a power of attorney. Designate a power of attorney, okay? Someone who is trustworthy, someone who is responsible, somebody who knows how to handle business. I want you to designate a power of attorney. Now, I know some of the stuff that I'm saying, you may think that you have to have an actual estate planning attorney for this, but for some of this, you're going to go online and you're going to look for that form for the state of Georgia if you're in Georgia, for the state of California if you're in California, for the state of Illinois if you're in Illinois. You got me? Because every state has different laws. So I want you to go and find those correct paperwork so that you can do this on your own. This right here does not necessarily require you hiring an attorney. I want you to get on top of this. You don't have to wait, okay? Because when you're hiring an estate planning attorney, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. But Apostle has me on this assignment today so that we can get our business in order, so that we can plan for our final chapters. And I want to just share these things with you because I don't want you feeling like this may be above you because you can't afford an attorney. You don't need one for this. Go online, download this document. If you don't understand if it's the right document, send it to me. Okay? Send it to me. All right. Because that's what it's about. It ain't about gatekeeping. This is about us making sure that when we leave with some dignity. Okay? Some dignity. Okay, the other thing is, this is what I found out when I created my trust. You need to have a digital executor. What's a digital executor? I didn't know what it was. This was my first time hearing about it. A digital executor, okay? A digital executor is responsible for handling the digital legacy of a deceased individual, including online accounts, social media profiles, digital files, and other electronic assets. Lean in a little bit. Did you hear what I just said? A digital executor. That means all of that stuff on your phone, all of the stuff in your iCloud, all of the online accounts that you have, you need to be able to trust this person, okay? You gotta be able to trust this person. So I wanna make sure I pull you in so that you know you're giving that person the authority that when you die, they're able to go through all of your photos on your phone, all of your text messages, your emails, your online banking, everything. And it's called a digital executor, okay? All right. We're moving along because we don't have much time left, and I want to give you these other 2 points. Let me make sure I covered, a last will and testament. Let me talk about that real quick. I don't want you to get the last will and testament confused with your living will, okay? A living will is while you are still alive. while you are still alive. The last will and testament is for when you pass away, you're saying, this is who I want to be the executor to my estate, and this is how I want them to handle all of my business. I want this to go to Mary. I want that to go to Tom, okay? That's your last will and testament. And some of these documents, like all or most, you have to sign them, date them, notarize them, take 2 witnesses with you. So it's not just I can just do this and be done with it, throw it somewhere. No. You have to get most of these documents notarized, and you have to have 2 witnesses, and those 2 witnesses cannot have any interest in whatever that form is. So any interest in your estate, okay? Let's see. Okay, we're going to number 3. Number 3. You want to advise your family and your confidants wisely, okay? Advise them wisely. Discuss your wishes with them openly, if you can. That's why I put confidants on there too, because not everybody is leaving their family members all of their estate. Some people do write in other people who are not a part of their family, their extended family, or their partner, or their confidant. So discuss your wish openly with family, if possible, and or your confidants, your extended family, and so forth. Provide guidance on handling finances and assets. My child, my daughter, no. So when I die, I need you to make sure that you use this policy for this, that you do this with this property, you do that with that property. Everything is in writing. I've already told her what to do with all of my rental properties. My investments have beneficiaries to them. My insurance policies has beneficiaries to them. Let me stick a pin in this. If you have a checking or a savings account, call your bank tomorrow and make sure that you have a beneficiary on your checking and savings accounts. So many people die and they don't have a beneficiary on their account. So ensure that you do that tomorrow too. The other thing, I'm going to go to, let me stick a pin in this real quick for number 3. This is my last point on number 3. Encourage family and extended family to discuss your values and your legacy when you're gone. Encourage them to have discussions about, this is what she would have wanted in a positive way. This is what he would have wanted in a positive way. He don't want a whole lot of fussing and fighting. She wouldn't have wanted us to not have unity, okay? So ensure that you make that plain and clear before you go to be with Jesus, all right? So discuss that with your family now, and ensure that when you leave that they'll remember that discussion and they will discuss it amongst themselves. All right, this brings me to my last point. Review your documents annually. Review your documents annually, okay? This is not a trust, but this is my mother's information, right? So I'm her power of attorney. When something happens to my mom, I have this already organized in this binder. I can pick this binder up and take it with me to Chicago. I can pick this binder up and know who to call first, second, third, and fourth. I can pick this binder up. Why? Because it's organized. It's in one binder. This is what I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to make sure that you are organized with your documents and that you update them annually. Every summer, I pick this binder up, I pack it in my suitcase, I go to my mom's house, we go through every single document. I say, Mama, so-and-so, the sisters that you wanted to sing at your funeral, didn't both of them pass away last year? They surely did. Okay, well, we need to change that in your package, okay? So that's what I'm saying. Every year, I need you to update. I need you to update all of this information, wherever it needs updating. Ensure that your insurance policy is not about to lapse. Ensure that you still want that person who last year was the beneficiary, you want them to continue to be the beneficiary on your life insurance policy. Are you following what I'm saying? Every year, hey, you may say that you no longer want to be cremated. You may say, this year, I had a conviction. I feel like the Lord is leading me to go into the ground. You got the opportunity to change that, okay? Every year, I want you to revisit. I want you to revisit your information, okay? Put it in writing, date it, notarize it, get your witnesses, and review this annually, all right? So let me circle back around. If I could talk to my daddy, if he was standing in this room with me right now, I would say, Daddy, I sure was selfish. But God had a way to turn it around for good. I have helped so many people because I was selfish, and I realized that I was selfish. I didn't want anyone else to have to live on a ventilator, all because they did not prepare for their final chapter. So although my selfish love kept him here, I'm extremely thankful that it has worked out for good. God bless you. God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and go write your own final chapter, because how you leave here, it matters. It matters. God bless you, Rhema.